Hi guys, so today's video I'm going to be talking about my top tips for being gluten-free. Now I've been gluten-free since September 2016, so I thought it was about time I share with you some of the tips that I follow. Tip number 1, it gets easier. When I was first starting the gluten-free diet, I thought, oh my god, I can't eat anything now. I can't have bread, I can't have pizza, I can't have pasta, the world is over. But oh my god guys, it gets so much easier. There is new gluten-free food being introduced all the time, and even a lot of like major brands are now bringing out gluten-free versions such as Kit Kat, and apparently Oreo are doing something in America very soon. So don't worry, things do get easier. It can be overwhelming at first, but I think you just need to remember that things are always going to get easier as you learn more and more about the gluten-free diet. A good tip to remember is to always keep like a ready meal or some bread in the freezer, so that if you feel like you have no motivation to cook anything, you feel like you can't find anything, then you've always got a go-to meal that you know that you're able to have. Tip number 2, learn to read labels. Now this one is probably the most important tip, because once you know what you're looking for on labels, you can eat anything in the supermarket without worrying. So with reading labels, there are 5 gluten ingredients that you need to be avoiding, and these spell out browse. So that's barley, rye, oats, wheat and spelt, all things that contain gluten. Now things do get a little bit more confusing, so when you're a bit more advanced with the gluten-free diet, you might want to read my browse and labels blog post, where I talk about how there can be wheat dextrose and how that there can be gluten-free wheat. But for now, let's just do the simple tips, and browse are the things that you're looking for on labels. This also contains made in the factory and may contain warnings that I'll talk to you about in a little bit. So once you know how to read labels, you don't need to rely on label scanners, because these can often be incorrect. Sometimes places update their ingredients and they don't update these barcode scanners. Therefore, if you can learn to read a label, 99.9% of the time you are correct. The only time that you're not going to be correct is when they have made a mistake themselves, and that's when they'll do product recalls, and I always post those on my Instagram whenever I find them, so make sure to follow me on my Instagram, GlutenFreeTori. It's also really good to get your family and friends to understand about reading labels, because almost all of those items will be highlighted in bold because they do contain gluten, and obviously cereals containing gluten are one of the major 14 allergies that in the UK have to be stated on the labels clearly. Tip number 3, be confident. Now this is a really important tip. When you go to restaurants or to your friends' places or even your family, you need to be confident. You need to know what you can have and what you can't have. In restaurants, I find it's really good to always ask for a gluten-free menu, because that's first of all showing them that somebody in the party has an allergy, as not all places ask for this. Then when you order, make sure you are stating that you want the gluten-free item, even if you're ordering off a gluten-free menu. Because I've had that in the past where I point to something on the menu and I say, okay, yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's gluten-free, and they don't realise. Also, you want to check how they're cooking these things. Even if they say they're gluten-free, are they cooking the chips in the same oil they're cooking onion rings in? Are they using the same balls, the same utensils? It is always best to be confident and ask, because you do not want to be feeling ill because you just haven't asked the right questions. And it's better to leave a place than being a bit unsure if they're not really sure. If they go, I don't know, find out what they know, or speak to somebody who does know, like someone in the kitchen if you can. It's always good to have a little phrase that you say, such as, I'm gluten-free, I can't eat this. Basically, so that you know what you want to say into going to a restaurant. Because when I first was diagnosed, I hated talking about it. I didn't want to be awkward and uncomfortable. And in the end, it just made me get ill. And that just wasn't worth it. Now I'm like, right, how's it cooked? How's this cooked? How's that? Perfect. You feel so much safer and more confident that you're going to feel all right at the end of the day. Because no one wants to be feeling sick due to food. Because food is amazing, let's face it. Tip number 4, cross-contamination. This is a big deal and something that you want to be really careful about in restaurants, like I just said. But if you are living in a house with people who aren't gluten-free, you need to be careful of this. When I was first diagnosed, I used to share the same toaster with my family and the same butter. This is a massive no-no. There are crumbs all around this and it can end up making you so ill. I at first was like, no, I don't need a new toaster. And then suddenly, as I was walking to work in the middle of M&S, I was like, oh my God. And now I get when they say you need a new toaster. I had to run to the toilet, was scared I wouldn't make it, all because I'd shared the toaster with my mum and dad. I started off with toaster bags, But honestly, it was so much easier just to buy a really cheap toaster. Yes, okay, the kitchen was a bit cramped having 2 toasters, but it just is safer and you don't have to worry about it. Also, having 2 toasters, you can specifically label a toaster gluten-free. There are even stickers on eBay that people are selling that say gluten-free toaster so that no one uses it. Now, when we go on holiday, we even take this toaster with us because we know that it's easy to move around. I think I got it for about 20 quid from Argos. It's just so perfect that we use it all the time when we go on holiday, when we go to places, and now whenever I go to my mum and dad's, I know that the toaster is safe and they haven't used it. They even keep it in a cupboard with gluten-free food for me because when I visit, I can just be safe. You want to let your friends and family know about cross-contamination as well, because when you go over there, you don't want them to be using the same butter that they've been using to butter their bread or crackers the whole week, because that would have tiny crumbs of bread, because you often open a butter and you can see all the crumbs in there. So it's great just to have your own butter and label it. When I lived at home, I used to label it in Sharpie. Luckily enough, my boyfriend is gluten-free as well, so everything in our house is gluten-free. So if we ever have like a party or anything, we always make sure to say, this flat is gluten-free, please don't bring anything with you. If you want beer, we will get it for you. It's just so much easier and it means you can be safe. Tip number 5, avoid making tains and made in the factories. A lot of people at first will keep making tains in, which is exactly what I did, but it was when I was having some hula hoops that I realised that is not okay. Many people say, oh, it's fine, but you don't realise the damage that you are doing to your gut. A lot of people are silent celiac, so they don't even realise when they're eating normal gluten. But there still is a chance that there is gluten in it, and therefore that is damaging you inside. It's like a product saying it may contain poison. Do you really want to take the bet that the item contains poison or doesn't contain poison? It's just not worth it. There are so many great foods out there that are safe to eat. There is no point risking them on may contains. There are a few products that say they may contain gluten, but they specify gluten-free. Now, these ones are actually tested to make sure that they are below the legal limits of being gluten-free. Most other products, they're not tested, so you have no way of knowing if these are above or below. Therefore, it's just not worth risking it. Number 6, follow gluten-free bloggers and Instagrammers. This is how I started to feel so much more confident about my gluten-free diet and how I actually ended up starting GlutenFreeTori. When I first started the gluten-free diet, I was really overwhelmed and I didn't really know what I could eat and what I couldn't eat. And that's when I started following Becky XL and people like that. And I just realised that, oh my God, there are so many things I can eat, and they share amazing recipes and they talk about reviews and new items. And so it was like all the new gluten-free items I knew about because people were talking about them. Whereas before I was sort of going into a shop and being like, yeah, I can have this item and this item. Whereas when I started following like the gluten-free guide and the gluten-free blogger, they were posting all of these new items that I didn't really know about before then, and it just made life so much easier. Also, my family and friends follow them and they're like, oh my God, check out that item that this person's posting. It's like, thank you, and they're telling me about new items. My sister tags me in restaurant posts quicker than I normally see them, and it's so good because it's like, I wouldn't have seen it if someone wouldn't have tagged me in it sometimes, because there are so many people you can follow that it's just, there's so much information out there now. And if you are struggling with it, it's so good to hear what other people think. And obviously if you follow me, well, that's great too. Number 7, tell your friends and family. Now this goes in with the being confident one a bit, but once you tell your friends and family what you can and can't eat, you can feel so much safer when they're hosting parties or going over for a dinner party, because you know that it's safe. Also, if you have friends that you stay over a lot at, it was really a good idea to have food there that you know that you can have. For example, my mum always has gluten-free food in the freezer for me, and I always have gluten-free bread or pasta there, just in case. Apologies, my phone ran out of storage, so I'm now using my partner's. But yeah, it's always good to have food at people's houses, just in case. And getting your family to know more about it means that when you go over there for like dinner parties and stuff, that you can have safe food to eat. Like my nan always buys now gluten-free party food whenever we're coming over for Christmas. Obviously apart from this year, but before COVID was even a thing, me, my partner, my mum and dad went over to my godparents' house and they did a completely gluten-free dinner party, and it was so lovely just knowing that I could eat anything and not worry about it. So it's really good just to get your family and friends understanding about it. Like one of my best friends will always buy me gluten-free donuts, cupcakes, and it's just so lovely that we have that little thing now. And number 8, it may not solve all of your stomach issues. Going gluten-free has helped me immensely. I no longer am throwing up, I'm no longer having a stomachache every day, but for me, this didn't solve everything. I also have IBS and I'm currently on a low FODMAP diet, which is making it better again, but personally it just didn't solve everything. For some people, yes, it does, and they feel perfect and it's only gluten they have to worry about, but I don't want you to go into the gluten-free diet thinking it will solve everything and then being disappointed. For some people, yes, it does solve all of the issues, but it is good to be realistic that it may not solve everything for you. I hope you enjoyed this video and my top tips about being gluten-free. If you have any more tips, let me know in the comments, and if there's enough of them, I might make another video about this. If you enjoy this type of video, let me know. I have a few more ideas in store for 2021, so I hope you did enjoy it. If you want to keep up with all the latest gluten-free finds and reviews that I have, don't forget to follow me on my blog and Instagram, and I will see you all soon. Bye!